Okay. Hey, there we go. Oh, hey, hi. How are you? Yeah, I was asked a question recently in a live stream, and I thought it would be a good idea to address it in its own video. The question was, how do you deal with non-compliance by a manager?
Man, that's a tough one.
Okay, that's a bit of a tough one, but there's a fairly easy solution to use to address it, and believe it or not, this principle that I use can be utilized across other settings. It's all about questions. Curious? I'll stick around. First, we need to understand why we simply don't want to address it. And simple, really. It's because, well, we most likely expect there's going to be conflict and repercussions. And we want to avoid that, don't we? However, not stepping up might end up being a train wreck. If we don't address the non-compliance, it's possible the manager's actions are going to get him or her hurt. Or worse, someone else. And more than likely, things are just going to get worse if we ignore it. Poor attitudes and poor examples trickle down. So avoidance is not an option. And then the question is, how do you address it? The first thought when we are trying to approach something like this is, we need to get inside that person's head and figure out why they're doing this.
They don't care.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they don't know any better, or maybe they're distracted. Whatever internal motive, it's not up to you to figure it out. You're not a psychologist, and whatever idea you come up with, chances are it's likely wrong. Your job is to guide the manager back into compliance. Nothing more. And I've found one of the best ways to avoid conflict in these situations is to simply ask questions. This addresses the situation in a few ways. Number one, it might reveal the actual motive behind the situation. Mr. or Mrs. Manager, do we have a safe work procedure for this situation? Have you had a chance to go over the safe work procedure for this situation? Or, number two, you might ask if they're already following an established procedure. I once asked the president of a college I worked for, before they were going to drive back to another campus located in another city, what their working alone check-in process was. Now, I was totally prepared for the answer to the question to be, my what? My who? What are you talking about? But no, fortunately, they had read it, but it was up to me to actually ask that question. Now, the third point is the situation itself might be one where you can actually just help. Say, for instance, the manager is out on the floor and requires some PPE and isn't wearing any. You might simply ask if you can go grab them some loaner PPE, framing it with the preface that you don't want to see them getting asked why they aren't wearing any. Now, number four, the situation might be complex and actually might need a few questions, with you being prepared to provide some correction depending on the answers. A discussion, if you will. And it will start off with the number one question. Hey, can we have a quick conversation about safety? A word of warning here. Frame your questions as questions, not some sort of rhetorical attack. Don't be snide, rude, or disrespectful. Remember, creating a base of influence rooted in diplomacy and respect will go a lot further than flaunting your knowledge and being a nauseating turd. Remember, it's not about you being right and them being wrong. It's about achieving that safe and healthy workplace. Now, once the conversation is over and you're satisfied the unsafe behavior is corrected, you should follow up with an email thanking the manager for the opportunity to simply talk safety. And of course, let them know if they want any other assistance or need other information, you're always available. Now, the tricky part. If they don't comply or they brush you off, possibly taking on the attitude of being above the rules, don't worry, it's happened to me more than once. The difficult thing is to not take it personal. After all, even if you wrote the procedure, it's the company's procedure, not yours. So send an email to the manager recapping the conversation, even asking for another opportunity to chat about the issue, and then also CC it to your boss. Worst case scenario, if it's your boss or the manager simply isn't complying, you may have to go above their head. Another warning, if you don't do that, you're sending two messages. One, safety isn't required for some of rank and privilege. And two, you're only partially invested in the safety program or safety system if you're going to selectively ignore obvious non-compliance. Either way, it's going to affect your job. Remember, having knowledge and skill is one thing. Without integrity and ethics, you're just another guy or gal that knows stuff. Having said all that, it's also tough trying to correct your peers. If you're curious about some techniques, you can have a look at this video here. But remember, it's not about having a position of power, a manager or a supervisor, to be a safety leader. It's just about leading by example. Talking that talk and walking that walk, provoking safety in whatever you're doing and wherever you are. Being that example, a safety influencer. Okay, take care. Bye for now.